This is not an easy thing to do. I can't emphasize this enough. This is not an easy thing to do. You guys get a ton of opportunities to have personal training, and I think personal training is great. But at some point, you have to come out and just play. You got to be able to figure things out for yourself in the midst of a team. Okay? So that's why we do this. We start out with ball handling because I want to impress upon your mind how important it is to learn how to handle the ball. But then we're going to play, and we're going to compete. The reason why we have you on a different team every week, because I want you to play with different kids. I want you to be able to play on different groups where you might be the best player. Next time you might be the least skilled player. You need to learn how to play in those different parameters, okay? So 2 years ago, we started this. We were at Upper Arlington High School, and I'll never forget to talk. Roy Hall talked to us about 3 things that Peyton Manning had shared with him when he played for the Indianapolis Colts. Roy Hall played Ohio State, went on to play in Indianapolis Colts, tore up his knee, did not get to play in the Super Bowl, but he was still on the team. One day in the training room, he went up to Peyton Manning and asked him how he was doing, and Peyton was kind of short with him, and he says, "How are you doing?" He goes, "I'm doing fine." And he said, he looked him straight in the eye. I'll never forget Roy sharing this. He says, there's 3 kind of people that are on this team, and there's 3 kind of people that are on this earth. And Roy goes, "I don't know what you're talking about." And he goes, "There are those who surrender, there are those who survive, and then there's those that are significant." And he said, those that surrender, they're the ones that quit at everything. He goes, "I've seen them quit in the pros, college, high school, and Little League. You start quitting when you're young, you'll do it your whole life." My advice to you is don't hang around with people that surrender, okay? Maybe some point in your life you'll come to their aid because you're compassionate and you want to help them, and I get that. But at the end of the day, if you hang out with people that quit, you will quit too, okay? Because we tend to do what our friends do or what our inner circle does, okay? It makes no difference why somebody quits or surrenders. It's just if they do that, they'll do it for the rest of their life. And I don't want you guys to be surrenders, nor should you want to be. Number 2, and this is the sneakiest one, number 2 is those that just survive. They're good enough to get in the room. They got enough talent, enough skill to get in the room, but they don't do much more after they get in there. If practice is at 6 o'clock, they get there at 5:58. If practice is over at 8 o'clock, they leave at 8:02. They do just enough to get in, but they don't really commit themselves. So they just do enough to survive. And then there's people of significance. These people, as Roy said, as Peyton Manning said, these are the ones that make a difference in other people's lives. I can tell you personally, I have surrendered. I've quit personally and professionally. I have just survived. I had enough talent just to get into the room. And then I have been on a path of trying to be a person of significance. Next is my effort in that area. I want to make a difference in somebody else's life. It's really important to me. But I can tell you this, the times that I have quit and the times that I have just survived, even though I got what I thought I wanted, I was the most miserable that I could ever be. Because when we make it about ourselves, we tend to be very unhappy. We tend to become isolated. I'm going to share a story with you guys, highly personal story. So I'd like to have all your attention. In 2005, I had 2 sons. Today's Father's Day. I had Ryan and I had Addison. They both had different mothers. They were pregnant at the same time, and they were born 8 months apart. I was not married to either one of them. It was probably the most difficult time in my life because I was raised to do the right thing. And in that instance, I did not do the right thing. In plumbing terminology, I was circling the drain. I couldn't get out of my own way. I was making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. I'll never forget driving from Springfield with my 3 older boys who were 15, 14, and I think 9 at the time. And I told them in the car that they were going to have another brother after Ryan. And my oldest son, who's a comedian, said, "Dad, you know what you should do? Your next company car, you should get a Coda bus and put all the town's names on it where you have to drop the kids off." It was actually very, very funny. You guys don't get it, but it was hilarious. So he brought levity to the situation. Bryce asked me, and only the way Bryce could say, he goes, Dad, are you married? Because he was 9 years old. But my 14-year-old, I'll never forget it, Austin, he didn't say anything. And then he finally said, I said, what should I do? And I don't even know why I ask kids that age, what should I do? But I did. My 14-year-old gave me some of the best advice that I've probably received from anyone other than my mom and dad. He goes, raise them. He simply said, raise them. I'll never forget that ever in my life. 3 things I learned. The greatest gift that we have, other than God's salvation, is free will. That's the greatest gift we have. And with that free will, we can make any decision that we choose, any. But the only thing that you don't get to choose is the consequences of that decision. Let me bring it down to your level. Social media. Yeah, you have the right, the freedom to post anything you want to post, anything. But you are not free of the consequences of that decision. And it only takes you just a couple seconds to write something harmful or hurtful towards somebody else. And the consequences can be grave, especially the way that schools, thankfully, are trying to handle it now. I learned that I was not free of the consequences. Sometimes we make mistakes and we don't see the immediate consequences. I think that's God's way of having mercy on us. Because if we had to have the consequence of every bad decision we made, life would be, you wouldn't be able to get out of bed. So free will, free to choose what you want to choose, but you can't choose the consequences. The second thing that I learned, and I think about this all the time, no matter what you go through, and I'm going to tell you, all of you guys are going to go through things. Some things are going to be incredibly hard. Your parents have went through things hard. They have a chance to go through things hard later in their life. There's 3 things I know about people's circumstances. You're either in a crisis, you just came out of a crisis, or there's one right around the corner. That's the way life works, okay? The thing I hate about most of my crises is that 99% of them, they were my fault. My kids have never been unhealthy. No one in my family's died of cancer. My parents are still alive. We've had a good life, but all the misery I have is self-inflicted. But what I do know, and I do know this to be true, that you can recover from anything you cause or go through. You really can recover. I didn't know if I was going to share this part because it's highly personal, and I only experienced it once in my life. But at that time, when Ryan and Addison was born in March and November, when I found out that Addison's mom was pregnant in May, I felt like committing suicide. I have never, ever been in that situation. But I'm going to be honest with you, I did. I even called a suicide hotline because the shame that I thought I brought on myself and my family was more than I could bear. But when I realized that I was making it about me, even in the midst of all this was going on, I was still making it about me. And then I realized that's not the way to go. And all of you guys are going to go through some things. Some of you might go through some really difficult things. Talk to somebody about it, okay? Talk to somebody about it. You're going to have anxiety. You're going to have a little depression. Everybody goes through that. But don't ever, ever feel like you can't talk to someone and move from that feeling. And I did, and I moved from it. And thank goodness I did, because I have this today, where if I would have made that decision in 2005, I would not have. And like I said, that's the only time in my life I was the one that was supposed to be most likely to succeed in high school. I was Tiger Award winner in college, graduate, had a great job. I never thought I would be in that situation. I never even thought I would think that way. But I did. But by God's grace, it was for a short amount of time. And I could see through the midst of all the pain and the hurt and all the trials that there would be another day. And that leads me to the last thing. In the Old Testament, there's a book called Psalms. There's 150 chapters in the book of Psalms. 33 times it's mentioned in the NIV, which is New International Version. 33 times The word unfailing love, or the phrase unfailing love, is in the book of Psalms. Over 40 times in the Old Testament. That word means a lot to me. In basketball sense, unfailing would be like undefeated. And what I learned is that God is undefeated when it comes to love. Because he never left me in the midst of that trial. Even though I did not behave well. I behaved about as poor as you can behave. But he never left me. And because of that, that's why I'm here today. That's why I get to do this with you guys. And I'm so happy and thrilled to be able to do it. Because you guys are part of me, the path of me wanting to be significant. Because it's about you guys, it's not about me. And I share you that story with you today because it's Father's Day, and that your parents love you so, so much. I can't express to you how much they love you. And there's nothing you can ever do, ever, for them not to love you. It's impossible. So no matter what decisions and mistakes you make, whatever falls upon you, realize that your mom and dad, you are their precious, and you are their precious child, and you are their pride and joy. Talk to them. Share your innermost feelings and thoughts with them. They're there to help you. Sometimes they might not have any advice for you, but just to listen to you. But let them in. Let them know anything and everything that's going on in your life. Because I'm going to tell you, there is nothing like the love of a mother and father. So I'll leave you with this. I want all you guys to really, really strive right now in your life to be kids and people of significance. And I want you to make life about other people. I want you to seek out the kids when you go to school this fall that aren't as popular as you. You see them sitting by themselves, or they seem to be socially awkward. I want you guys to be leaders. I want you to go up to them, invite them to sit and lunch with you. Talk to them, get to know them. It's really, really important. Don't just hang out in your little bubble. And then remember the 3 things that I shared. You're free to do whatever you want, but you're not free to choose the consequences. Those will be chosen for you based on your decision. You have to remember that. Number 2, you can get through anything you go through. Anything. You really can. And number 3, for me, don't forget God's unfailing love. Like I said, if you want to talk about it in terms of basketball, he's undefeated when it comes to love. I appreciate you guys. I really do. I love being here with you guys more than you can ever imagine. I was nervous today, not because what I was going to talk about. I was just nervous to get in front of you and start this process all over again. So with that being said, thank you very much. Tell your dad that you love him, and I'll see you here I won't be here next Sunday. I'll be at Duke University. I'll see you this Sunday after. Coach Miller is going to be taking over next week, okay? Thanks for everything. Everybody up here.